Thanks for coming back to the buffet. To close out 2024, this is going to be our last video, and it's all about Dark Souls and Soulsborne games. So enjoy a discussion on one of our favorite genres, and we'll see you in 2025. And if you like the video, be sure to give us a like or a sub if you think we're worth it. Anyways, on with the video. Welcome back to episode 82 of the declining and always rising all-you-can-game buffet extravaganza. We've had some laughs. We've had some mainly just laughs. Mm-hmm. But thank you for our viewer for sticking by it all these years. We love you. And you know what? It's been a moment, but we finally got someone back on the show. Everybody, round of applause for the science wizard, Graham.
Science wizard.
Awkward silence.
If you look far and wide, you can see our one viewer clapping.
Never late, never early.
Always on time.
Always shows up exactly when he needs to.
Yes. Well, Graham used to be, and I'm going to say used to be, our resident Souls expert. Mm-hmm. But I think he's quickly becoming irrelevant and obsolete.
It's been dethroned.
Story of my life.
We're going to talk a lot about Dark Souls and Souls-like and the whole Souls-like genre.
Mm-hmm.
And really hash out what is everyone's favorite Dark Souls game.
Yeah,
including me.
I'm starting to come to that conclusion after playing all these.
I'm really curious because you played them so in such tight.
I've played them in real rapid succession.
Yeah.
In reverse order, essentially. Mm-hmm. So I did Elden Ring, its DLC, Bloodborne, its DLC, and then I did Dark Souls 3, its DLCs, 2, its DLCs, and 1, and it's actually I didn't do its DLC because I made the mistake of beating the final boss, and when you beat the final boss, it just goes New Game Plus, and it just throws you right back in the game. And I was like, shit. So I didn't actually get the chance to do the DLC content for Dark Souls, the original.
Oh, it would only take you 2
I could
hours
steamroll the dudes now. My character is just a monster at this point. So I guarantee you I could probably get back to where I needed to in, probably a couple hours.
The DLC is way better than the second half of the base game.
Yes.
Way better.
Yes. I'd like to discuss the interesting concept that is Dark Souls the first half and Dark Souls the second half, because it is essentially it's like a layoff happened midway and the game just something happened and they were like, this is fine, ship it, and it's missing so much.
I think the creative vision and attention was given. It was 90% on the first half and 10% on the second half. It was just it's not a coherent. It's just a bunch of ideas tried.
Yeah, and they kind of pigeonholed themselves in they created these branching paths, and then they put these blocker doors specifically where they're you'll come back here later, and then when it's time for the doors to unlock, they're we don't really have very good ideas for what's behind the doors. And then you're okay, it's a giant lava pit that's just a big open field. Oh, it's a giant forest that's just a big open field. So that happens a lot, and there's no real rhyme or reason for it. But
the Academy is the only one that is tolerant.
Yeah, it felt very on brand in terms of a legacy dungeon or something like that. It was this kind of cool, you twist the stairs and sort of you puzzle your way through the Academy, and then they're here's the back door to the Crystal Cave, and I'm what is this mess of an area they made? So then they kind of dropped the ball there.
You don't like walking across invisible platforms? And
honestly, it didn't bother me because I was like, I'm going to check 9 years worth of internet content, and they will tell me how I can. Because the one
drop
thing
the little colored beads.
or also like, there's literally like crystal star bits that are falling, and they're hitting like some sort of surface. So like, it's fairly obvious where you need to go. However, with 9 years or 10 years, you can search. Speed boss run, or what's the run back, boss run back, like 1 minute, and everybody's got a video of like, here's how to get back to the boss in 1 minute. You're like, perfect. So that saved me loads of time.
Oh, I forgot that though. You have to cross that every friggin' time you fight them.
The run backs. There's one run back to the Four Kings. I don't know if you remember that part. He's in like the underground flooded town.
But you can just drop off the like edge at that point.
You still have to essentially start from like the Firelink Shrine, and I had it down to about a minute of like just booking it through the ghosts, rolling over ledges, and getting to where I needed to be. Yep. But that one sucked. You know, that one really sucked.
That boss fight is also dumb.
Yeah, there's lots of very like, I don't know, there's very interesting things. If we're going to talk about the boss fights, 3 is the best. Of the Souls series, Elden Ring is the best. Hands down.
Okay, hold on a second. You just dropped a bomb here by saying Elden Ring is the best of the Souls. Like, I feel like...
No.
You wanna...
No,
the bosses are the best designed. But there are aspects like, I think 3 as a game is probably the best. Like, it's the pinnacle of the Dark Souls series. Elden Ring is kind of its own thing, but like the bosses, there's just so many bosses that it's hard to argue that Elden Ring's not better when there's like 3-4 times the amount of bosses, right? So
before we step into this discussion, which is an important one, I want to know, how do you fall on the debate between, is it a Metroidvania? Like where... No?
Not really. I guess. Maybe the first one. Because they constantly do the thing where they're like, oh, here's the path back to the Firelink Shrine. And like they do a lot of that interconnected. You go up and then there's a stairwell back.
But like when you first go through like Undead Burg and then you go down into like the what's the name of that swampy piss where Quail Egg is?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, anyways, and then you like emerge back up. That loop takes a while the first time, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm back here. And like that's
and the problem is I didn't even look anything up, but you can receive a gift at the start of your playthrough, and one of the gifts is a master key, which opens many doors. I was like, this seems like the most. They're like, you could take 2 life gems or this master key, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take the master key. So like the master key negates Blighttown altogether. Like you can just go to the backside of Blighttown and just go through a door. Yeah, and so like,
so you went down from Firelink Shrine. You didn't go under like Undead Dragon.
I did everything in a very odd fashion because the master key kind of makes it so that you can like go anywhere. But like
your experience, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, I guess it doesn't feel Metroidvania in a Metroidvania, you'll acquire an item that lets you like get to that ledge or whatever. Nothing really happens like that. It's just kind of like, here's the shortcut back to town, because they just don't give you a lot of fire spots, right? Yeah. So I don't know. The question you ask is it like a Metroidvania? I'm going to say no.
So the way I think about it, I agree with you. It doesn't have the ability unlocks but it does have like,
because you can do everything. You can technically do anything you want at the start.
But if like Hollow Knight is the pinnacle of like Metroidvanias right now, and that map design is just gorgeous, the way it constantly is folding back on itself. I would say the first Dark Souls has that really well.
It kind of does. It kind of does. Like
I love
I can
that.
see what you're saying,
Okay.
especially the Undead Berg, because the Undead Berg actually has like maybe 2 or 3 ways you can get back, and like there's a couple, like there's the aqueduct shaft that kind of takes you back, and I can see what you're saying, but it does all fall apart after a while.
It does,
Like
yeah.
you go to the catacombs, and like there's no like shortcuts back from the catacomb. It's just like you teleport out because like there's no going back. So a lot of the times, like you'll know they'll give you one of those homeward bones, and that's how you're like, I can't leave here. They are the game is literally like use this item and go home because you can't leave. So I feel like there are lots of points where they just send you as deep as you can go, and then they're like, here's the fast way out. Don't bother.
Yeah. I just like the. Have you seen the like 3D maps of like the whole layout and how it's all interconnected?
There's this one video guy I watch. I think it's like VQC maps or something. He specializes in hand-drawn maps of these games, and he gives a very precise run through of the entire playthrough, and it's like a really great walkthrough, but it's also just these really cool isometric hand-drawn maps that he does that I really like. I wouldn't go for people's walkthroughs. I would use this guy's videos because it doesn't spoil anything, but it's kind of like you can go here and then you can go here, and like I'd still have to figure it out to do it, but yeah, they are very intricate. 3 doesn't have the same system.
No, 3. I found I agree with you that 3 has the combat's fleshed out the best, and
The boss fights are very tight.
good. But it doesn't have that level design the way I like the first one.
Yeah, everything's like teleport to this zone, and now do the loop of the zone,
which
and
is
then
more
teleport
like
back to town.
Demon Souls, right? Like
yes,
have,
where
like, a
there's a
hub
hub, and then you go to like level 5 or level 6. Like they're not all they are somewhat connected. You know, a whole like you get that first castle area, and then like Lothric Castle, and then after that they send you down into the swamps, and like technically that's all interconnected. You can get to many places through there, but it takes a long time. But yeah, it is more designed to like teleport between the areas.
I found that guy's video. It's interesting.
VQC or
It's
VCQ or
VG cartography.
yes, that's the guy. His videos are really great. Again, he doesn't do like big spoilers, but he will walk you through the entire playthrough the game. So I kind of used him as reference because if I got stuck and I was like, I don't know where the hell I'm going. His videos are great because they don't show you anything in the game. He just goes, well, you go here and then you got to kind of find a thing in there. I'm like, okay, I can do that.
Now,
right. So like highly recommend his videos that don't spoil these games at this point if you're looking for just a little guidance.
you played the Dark Souls 1 remastered, right?
Yeah, I did not play the original.
So
it's almost
can
impossible
we
to find.
even say that you actually played Dark Souls 1? Because you play it at 60 frames a second and not the janky 24-ish
with the
frames a second.
4-point dodge radius or dodge direction. Yeah,
Possible
I've heard
to
horror
find.
stories.
I've got multiple copies if you want it.
Of
I
the
have-
original?
I have
Yeah.
the PS3 one right behind me if you want to grab it. Even though
All
I
right.
just purchased the remastered version myself.
I'm glad I purchased the remaster. Because coming from 2 to 1, 2 is, and I played the remaster or whatever. I guess it was like a relisting called the Sins of the Father, or Sins of the something. It's essentially a remaster of 2. And even the jump from 2 to 1 of both remasters, there's like a lot missing in each game. And 2 is a wild ride. I will say that. I just wrote my script and recorded my script for it today, and there is a lot of stuff in that game that is not in any other Dark Souls game to date. Like everything they've made since then is not included in this game. So 2 is a very interesting game. I actually think everyone should play 2.
2 is like a totally different team, right? There's no...
Yes, because at the time, Miyazaki was working on, I believe, Bloodborne before Dark Souls 3, or either Dark Souls 3 and then moved to Bloodborne. So he didn't direct it. He kind of gave the directing over to another guy and was like, you know what the game's about, do what you need to do. But like I guess it was their opportunity to try a few things. Hank, you gotta get that butt out of there.
You just
Smell it from here. Yeah, 2 is amazing, though. And I really enjoyed, because they had to go, here's how great 1 was. What do we do to change it? And a lot of the changes are funny and kind of odd.
Yeah. I had a good time with 2, but I never replayed it. Like, I never had a drive to... Like, yeah, I don't even know if I finished it. I can't remember. Like, it was fine. Like, it was fun, but it was like... I put it up there with, like, an Ubisoft game. Like, you're going to enjoy your time with it, but it's probably not.
Yeah, that's an interesting review.
I don't know. That's how it sticks out. Like, I played one Assassin's Creed game in my life, and I was like, oh yeah, that was alright. I couldn't tell you which one it was. The only reason why I know which Dark Souls 2 is because it was the only one that stands out. Like, Dark Souls 3 I played a couple times, Dark Souls 1 I played millions of times, and then Elden Ring's its own beast, and Bloodborne I played a bunch too. Oh man. Yeah. I never played Sekiro though. Which you definitely...
Sekiro, eh?
Sekiro, like...
I played a bit of Sekiro. I've decided on this journey I'm going through
not to do it.
I'm gonna finish on Sekiro.
Okay.
Because my first time, maybe I will give it the game the benefit of the doubt, because I don't know if I was just comprehending it properly or what was like, because it is... I have also learned it is not the same as these other games. It runs a whole other system of like parrying and a stamina bar. Your enemy has a stamina bar or a limit bar. I don't know. There's like a special term for it. But it's just a whole other beast. And now that I've like slowly gone and conquered all these games, I want to go and try it again, but I'm going to save it for last.
It does seem to favor the people who like to like play a parry build.
I played through all of these games and I parry virtually nothing. It wasn't until I got to the first game that I started to parry. And so like when you fight the final boss, turns out you can parry the final boss in 4 parries and he's dead. And he's an absolute pushover joke. And I was saying this to my cousin and he's like, oh yeah, well, I heard Dark Souls 1 is the easiest of the parrying system. And I was like, great, way to shoot my confidence on that one. So now I'm like, I still question if I'm any good at Sekiro.
The answer is no, you are not.
Yeah,
problem.
But you don't have to be good. You just have to be able to like enjoy your time with it.
It's all about having fun, guys.
Okay.
I wasn't having fun at the time. I wasn't. However, I made it as far as this like bull that's horns are on fire.
Oh, Sekiro.
In Sekiro.
Okay.
Yeah. No, there was nothing in well, that's not true. There was plenty of bosses in like 1 and 2 that I was like, this doesn't seem like they've made this properly.
No.
And there's a lot of them have like gimmick issues. 2, to me, maybe it's just recency bias because like I wrote the script today or like I recorded it and I'm sort of like reliving it. That like 2 has a lot of really difficult scenarios thrown at you, right? Like the pursuer is a problem. He's like the first major boss you fight, and because we can't talk, this is all in my review, we can't talk about anything without acknowledging the adaptability stat that is not in any other Souls game, right?
I don't remember the adaptability stat.
So in every other Souls game, you have, when you roll, you have iframes, your invisibility frames. You cannot be hit during your roll. That is just how the game works, and you learn how it works. In 2, they decided to put your iframes in a stat called adaptability. And adaptability within it has agility. And your agility controls how many iframes you get on your dodge rolls. So if you didn't know that, you're going to be
That's brutal.
absolutely squashed or hit from like an outrageously far away hitbox, or like they'll finish their move and you're still like taking a hit. And so like even mid roll, you could dodge your roll perfectly on a swing, but because you don't have enough iframes, mid roll you're gonna get hit, right? So this has never been in another Dark Souls or any Souls game ever since, for good reason, because if you don't know how to update it or like make sure it's a certain level, you're just gonna die all the time. You're just gonna die all the time, and it's fucking bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. So like I learned from the internet, thank God, you got to get it to 100, and then after that, it kind of, you don't gain any more sort of ability
soft
from
cap
it.
or whatever.
Yeah, it's a soft cap at 100, and then you can play the game as if you were playing any other Souls game. So again, if you don't know that, and you jump into 2, and you're like, why does everything feel like it's killing me? It's because of your adaptability stat. Like you didn't put stats in it. And why would you? It seems like a completely arbitrary non-stat. It's like I could go for health or stamina because you might think it's paired to your stamina, but it's not. It's paired to adaptability.
So I haven't played Dark Souls 2 since the year it came out.
It's a while ago.
But
2011.
that adds up. I don't think I ever knew that.
Right. It's total bullshit. And so there's this one boss called the Pursuer, and he shows up multiple times. He's a real asshole. But they make you fight him directly as a boss in one particular instance, and he has just the biggest, widest swing, and no matter what you do, you get clipped by him. And because he's at the start of the game, there's no way you're going to have the stats or the levels to put into adaptability. So you're just going to get squashed by him all the time. And I could see people going, what's happening in this game? Why is this game so broken? And that it's because of that stat, right? So once you fix it, the game feels like a normal Dark Souls.
Yeah.
And if you don't know about it, people probably, I don't know how many people probably quit because they did not comprehend that adaptability was something you needed to invest in. It's horse shit.
I didn't quit, but I seem to remember this now that you're talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's bringing back
great PSA for me to never play Dark Souls 2.
Well, it makes the start of the game so hard. It feels like no matter what you're doing, it's like you can't seem to win or you can't seem to get a break. And I can see why people, like, I went from 3 to 2, and 3 is like they perfected it. They got rid of the stat, and your iframes are perfect. If you screw up on a roll, it's your own fault. But in this, it's like you perfectly dodged him, and then he's like mid swing this way, and you still like somehow like got hit, and you're like, what? How did that happen? And it's so frustrating. There's lots of issues like that I have. I'm gonna save it for the video because like I think I got like a solid third of the video is just about why I think Dark Souls 2 is the hardest of all the Soulsborne games.
Does that include Demon Souls?
I haven't beat it yet. Now I'm like working backwards and I'm updating as I complete, because before I would have played Bloodborne, Elden Ring, and 3, and I said Elden Ring's the toughest. Like it's the toughest. And then I went and played 2, and I was like, nope, 2 does things that no other game, and I'm by design it's doing things that are difficult. So even if I don't talk about bosses, the environments, the leveling system, the health system, these are all things that are actively working against you, that it's like, yeah, this is the hardest game. Like, without a doubt, this is the hardest game. And because I can say I've already beaten 1, 2 is harder. 2 is way harder. And so now the real question is Sekiro the hardest game of all time?
Well, I know there's sentiment about Demon Souls being the more challenging because it's the original, but from what I'm hearing here, it sounds like Dark Souls 2 is the harder.
I'm going to go through Demon Souls as well, but like I did the whole first area. I did the whole mine. I got to the boss in the end of the mine. I didn't really run into any challenge. That game's a lot of like, do the run a few times and your character will get enough stats that you could probably just kill everything. And like, I don't know, I can't remember if there's like durability in that game.
I don't think.
Do things break?
I don't think so.
Wrong.
Okay, well then that right there, if your sword doesn't break, then that's 1,000 times better. Dexterity builds in Dark Souls 2, they break all the time. And like I was using a samurai sword, Uchi Katana, because I was like, oh, dex build, let's go. That if you just hit hard enemies, the thing will just break. And so this is the first game where I ran with 3 weapons at a time, because I was like, Uchi Katana is going to be no good, even if it's maxed out, like, because it just breaks. And if you don't have repair powder, you got to go back to town. It's fucking total nightmare. So like this game, and your gear breaks, and there's like pools of this poison that specifically destroys your armor. It's crazy. There's things in this game that no other game does. And at this point, I'm still saying 2 is the hardest.
I need to replay 2, it sounds like. With all my free time.
It's a good time. Don't let me say it's bad. I think it's great. I came out of it going, that was amazing. But I can see why people have been very divided on 2.
Well, there's unfinished stuff too. Like, I guess some of this is poorly conceived game design. It's not fleshed out game design, I should say.
I suppose. I think one suffers from that more.
The first boss targets an ability that you can't yet perfect. That's a problem.
Yeah, and there's a troll method of killing him. Because there's these like ballistas in the back. And you wouldn't know it because he'll just swing and they'll just crumble, right? So you'd think they were like part of the set or whatever, but those are functioning, and the idea is you're supposed to bait him to the other side, and then you have to run to the ballista, load the ballista, fire it, and then you need to like stun lock him because he'll take a huge chunk of damage. And then you load again, fire it, and then there's like 2/3 of his health. If you can pull it off in 3 ballista shots, he's dead. So I don't know what the lesson is. I guess the lesson is this game is fucked and you should try and find other ways to like beat the boss. But like they don't convey that in any way. And the only reason I figured it out was because of people's messages on the ground going like weakness lever, weakness shot. And I'm like, what the fuck does this mean? And then I realized, oh, those things in the back, you can interact with them. And so like this game it's totally bonkers. And I don't know, I could rant forever, but I'm going to save the rest of my 2 rant for the video.
Kind of the opposite of E1M1, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, they don't really teach you everything you need to know.
Oh man, it's been a long time since. Like,
enough of that.
Yeah.
My question to you guys is, from what you've all played, what would you consider like your favorites?
Bloodborne.
Bloodborne is absolute second.
I think I like Bloodborne. Now that I have distance between Bloodborne and DS3.
Yeah, Bloodborne is better, for sure.
Yeah. And then
I would say it's better than the Dark Souls, but not as good as Elden Ring.
Well, does Elden Ring fit in this category? Because it is a very different game.
I think so.
Then maybe Elden Ring, yeah.
It's bigger in scale, but
it doesn't force you into the choke points the way that the other games do.
Elden Ring
doesn't.
Yeah, no. It makes a first-time player feel validated.
Which you were. That's how you got into
it. It gave me the courage to try these games, right? But in terms of just how well made and tight the combat is, Bloodborne is so good. It's perfected. It's like Bloodborne, and then essentially Dark Souls 3, 2, and 1. Right?
Yeah. I would agree that Elden Ring is, I think, my favorite so far.
I do plan on playing Armored Core as well.
Oh man, I played the original Armored Core so much, and I haven't played any of the sequels. Oh no, I played Armored Core 2, and it was like such a departure.
Yeah,
that I was like, I'm done with this. But I want to play 5.
I played the original on PS1, and I remember having a blast.
That was like our sleepover game. We played so much.
Split screen battle in the forest.
Yeah.
And like one guy just has the really fast legs. But Armored Core 6, you know, I know it's a big change, but at its heart, I think it's still the same concepts. Heavy stats, like it's all about stats. The only difference is you change your robot pretty much every level. You kind of need to like adapt per stage, but it's essentially boss rushes and heavy stats builds on like fast combat. So I think it's gonna be good.
So I used to play the MechWarrior tabletop, which is like, you want to talk about stats heavy, and I think there's been some decent MechWarriors that have come out. I just don't know which one, because there's so many MechWarrior games.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's any.
There has been a relatively new one, hasn't there?
Yeah, I think like Clans or something.
Yeah, Clans and Mercenaries. I think Clans is the newest one.
I don't know what the difference is, but I don't know if they like lean into the like streamline or if they lean into the like stats number geekery.
I'm not sure,
because I love that idea of like building up an economy, like doing missions as like a contractor to build a better mech.
I think Armored Core runs on the same principle.
Yeah.
Every time, that's why they want you to replay the early missions, because you're broke.
Yeah.
And you need to like do stuff to build your mech. But I'm not sure how big of a departure it is, so we'll see.
Yeah. Anyways, I might give that a spin over the holidays.
It's $20 on Amazon.
It's free on Game Pass, isn't it?
Armored Core?
No, MechWarrior.
Oh. Armored Core. Good God, I gotta power up my Xbox right now.
Well, what so is after Dark Souls 1, Levi, what's next? Are you gonna do Demon Souls and then Sekiro? Or?
I want to do Demon Souls because I have it and I don't have to pay for it. And I was borrowing a copy of Sekiro from my cousin. I had it for like a year, and because I kept forgetting to give it back to him, so I finally gave it back to him. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, I should have really put that back in the system. So now I'm probably gonna have to buy it. We'll see. I'll wait until maybe New Year.
Mm-hmm.
I am playing through Black Myth Wukong, which people have argued is a Souls-like.
Mm-hmm.
No.
I was going to play that. That was one of the games that I had earmarked on Game Pass.
So it's also, this is an interesting perspective because I have been inundated with Souls-likes. Black Myth Wukong it feels worse and more punishing than any Souls-like I've played to date. Like, really? It's so hard. And it feels so unfair at times that I'm literally going, I don't know what to do to make this a better experience. And I think the problem is they've taken all the aspects of Souls-likes and they've taken all the aspects of God of War and they've mashed them together. And it has not coalesced into a perfected system. In Dark Souls, when I roll or cancel an action, I feel like the button press is exact, and everything I do is an exact move. In Black Myth Wukong, you're just it's like a fighting game meets Dark Souls, but like when I go to dodge, the dodge button doesn't work. And I'm like, this is a nightmare. This is an absolute nightmare. And so I haven't had such a hard time, and I've played through all 3 Dark Souls in a row, and Black Myth Wukong has given me more challenge and more frustration than those 3 games combined. It's absolutely brutal.
Well, I already didn't really want to play that game, so
I'm taking one for the team at this
seals
point.
the deal.
Because I want to know, like, it's Game of the Year. Okay? It is up for Game of the Year. It does not deserve to win at all.
And it didn't.
And I can tell you that with a solid 10 hours in, and like I've beaten like 20 bosses. Because there's 120 bosses in this game. Jeez. It's essentially just boss after boss after boss, and they pepper in like a few little killable units every once in a while. But for the most part, you walk from room to room fighting a new boss. And like I said, they took all the parts of Dark Souls that are great, and they kind of didn't understand the philosophy of it, right? Like when you fight a boss in Dark Souls, you got to that wall, you put the work in, and you're ready to like fight the boss. This is like, oh, you like bosses, do you? Well, here's another one, and another one, and another one. And you're like, this is painful. And it's mostly a fighting game where you're just mashing square. So I don't know. And like there's no map. There's no map in this game. Now, there's no map in any Dark Souls game. Okay.
Elden Ring.
Elden Ring has a map. That's fine. But in Wukong, everything's in like these tiny little environments. Why wouldn't you just give me a map? And what makes it worse is that there's invisible walls everywhere. The game is plagued with invisible walls. You want to walk up that hill? No. No walking up that hill. You want to jump on that? No jumping on that rock. Ooh, there's something. No, can't go down there. And you're like, what the hell is the point of this game? They give you the illusion of this like massive sort of playground, but in reality, it's like very small. So then if you're going to give me invisible walls, give me a map.
So that is something that Dark Souls has gotten really good at, is that like in the first one there were a few things that you could like, what is that? And then you can actually figure out a way over there and you can get it. But in Dark Souls 3, there's lots of hidden stuff. Like you're like,
and
no
that's
way I
the
could
thing.
get there.
In those games, everything is like, oh, there's an item on that ledge.
Yeah.
You're like,
how
in God's name am I going to get up there? So somebody's thought of it, and the game, the physics have made it so that it is possible to get there.
100%.
In Wukong, they're just like, doesn't this environment look beautiful? Too bad you can't go in it. And I'm like, you don't deserve Game of the Year on that alone. No map, invisible walls, too many bosses for a game that's all about bosses. It's like, I don't know, man. I feel like it's nominated for Game of the Year because of cost. And we've talked about that, Hank.
Because of also how many units it sold, eh? Because it's just, it was the smash hit of the year.
It blew every game out of the water in terms of sales. But I don't think it's Game of the Year. Final Fantasy VII lets you jump on every rock.
All right, settle down over there.
And there's a map.
Well, I think that is going to bring us to a close. Dark Souls. We all love it. It's hard and challenging and very fun.
It is fun.
Beautiful.
So go play it and enjoy it. And
just not Sekiro.
Just not Sekiro. Don't play that one. Just the Dark Souls and Elden Ring. Actually, just play Elden Ring.
I was hoping we'd talk about what we think their next thing will be, but maybe that's on the next Graham podcast.
Yeah, look for that episode in 2027. Thanks for watching.
I could probably do another one in December.
Hit the like button if you liked what you're listening to, because we know you're a Dark Souls fan and we know you liked it. So hit the like button. Give us a sub if you think we're worthy, and catch you on the next one. Cheers.
Adios.